Hello students, we are beginning with the new chapter today, chapter 4th, that is what books and burials tell us. So in the beginning of the chapter, you'll see a paragraph named Mary in the library. So Mary and other kids were going to the library for the first time. They followed their teacher because the teacher were taking them to the library, and when Mary went inside the library, she found that the library is very large and there are so many books. All the shelves are full of books, and when she was trying to open a cupboard, the teacher said that cupboard has very special books on different religions. So, did you know that we have a set of the Vedas? So, their teacher said that cupboard has a very special books. And do you know we have a set of Vedas? What are the Vedas? Mary wondered. So, when her teacher told her that we have a set of Vedas, so she started wondering that what are the Vedas? So, in this chapter, we'll find those Vedas. So, let us find out. So, one of the oldest books in the world. You may have heard about the Vedas. Like we have four Vedas, and the oldest Veda is the Rigveda. So the four Vedas are the Rigveda, the Samaveda, the Yajurveda, and the Atharva Veda. So these are the four Vedas which we have, and among these, the oldest Veda is Rigveda. And the Rigveda was composed about 3500 years ago. So Rigveda is the oldest Veda. You have to remember this. And the Rigveda includes more than 1,000 hymns called Sukta, or well said, like in Rigveda, there are so many hymns, Sukta. Hymns are called Sukta in Sanskrit. सो लाइक मतलब देर आर बहुत सारी लोग, जैसे कुछ गॉड गॉडेसेस है, उनकी कॉन्वर्सेशन है ऋग्वेदा में, और बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं जो हमें अपने पास्ट के बारे में बताती है, लाइक रामायण के बारे में बताती हैं जो हमारे माइथोलॉजिकल है, और भागवत गीता के बारे में बताते हैं. सो देर आर लॉट ऑफ थिंग इन ऋग्वेदा. These hymns are in praise of various gods and goddesses. Like the hymns which are in Rigveda are based on the praises for the goddess and gods. And three gods were specially important, which was mentioned in the Rigveda. So the first one is Agni, that is the god of fire. Next is Indra, a warrior god, Indradev, like we say, Agnidev, Indradev. And the third one is Somadev, a plant from which a special drink was prepared. So three gods were important: Agni, Indra, and Soma. So these hymns were composed by the sages, or you say rishis, which we call rishi in Hindi. So the hymns, they all are composed by the rishis. And लाइक द मतलब जो पुराने टाइम पे जो लोग ब्राह्मण होते थे, प्रीस्ट होते थे, तो वो लोग अपने स्टूडेंट्स को ये जो पूरा ऋग्वेदा है वो उनको पढ़ाते थे, उनको रिसाइट, उनको याद कराते थे, पूरा मेमोराइज कराते थे उनको, एक एक वर्ड, लाइक सेंटेंस, बिट बाय बिट हर चीज याद कराते थे वो पूरे ऋग्वेदा की उनको. So most of the hymns were composed, taught, and learned by the men. So men were very important during when the Rigveda was written. So most of the hymns were written by the men. A few were composed by women, but not very much. Only few were composed. So the Rigveda is in Old or Vedic Sanskrit. So Rigveda is written in the Old Sanskrit, or you say the Vedic Sanskrit. And the Sanskrit which we study in schools in these days, that Sanskrit is very different from the Sanskrit which is used for writing Rigveda. So there is a huge difference between the Sanskrit of that time and between the Sanskrit we study today. So next is Sanskrit and other languages. So Sanskrit is a part of a family of languages known as Indo-European. So Sanskrit is a part of Indo-European family, and some of the languages such as Assamese, Gujarati, Hindi, Kashmiri, and Sindhi Asian languages, Persian, and many. So these are all Indian languages. European languages include English, French, German, Greek, Italian, and Spanish. And these are called the family, or you say the Indian languages family or European family, because they have words in common, like English and French or German, they have words in common, and like in Indian languages, Assamese, Gujarati, Hindi, so they have words in common. So that's why they are considered as a family. Next is the language which are spoken in the northeast portion. They are like they belong to the Tibeto-Burman family, and Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam. These are from the Dravidian family. So various languages have their different families, and the language which is spoken in Jharkhand and parts of central India. So they belong to the Austro-Asiatic family. So you can see there are a lot of families, and in India there are variety of languages in every part of India. Every state you'll go, you'll find different language and different culture. So every language has their individual families. So next is Rigveda. So Rigveda was recited and heard, like how historians study the Rigveda. So it was written like Rigveda was recited and heard like the teacher. They used to recite the Rigveda to their students, and it is also heard by some people. And it is just written around like several centuries ago. Around like it is written around 200 years ago, and it was printed less than 200 years ago. Like, no, it was written around several centuries ago, but it is printed less than 200 years ago. Like, अभी मतलब ऋग्वेदा को print हुए सिर्फ 200 years ही हुए हैं, जबकि ये बहुत टाइम पहले लिखी गई थी. Like, बहुत centuries पहले लिखा गया था ऋग्वेदा, because it is the oldest Veda, so it was written long, long ago. Next, we have how historians study the Rigveda. So some of the hymns in the Rigveda are written in the form of dialogues, like there is a conversation between two people and they have that particular dialogue to say. So in this form only Rigveda was written, and there is a conversation between a sage named Vishwamitra and two rivers, Bias and Satluj. So these are two rivers, Bias and Satluj, and sage Vishwamitra is a famous rishi, or you say famous sage of the past time. So conversation you can read in the book. You have for the history NCERT book, you can read the whole conversation there. I'm not telling you the conversation here. And next, it's a page from a manuscript of Rigveda. So you can see in which Sanskrit the Rigveda is written. I think we cannot understand anything from this page. So this manuscript of Rigveda was found in Kashmir about 150 years ago, and it was used to prepare one of the earliest printed texts of Rigveda, as well as English translation. It is now preserved in a library in Pune, Maharashtra. So this is the page from Rigveda, or you say manuscript of the Rigveda. Next is cattle, horses, and chariots. So you know the meaning of cattle, like भेड़ बकरियां होती है, जो goats होती हैं, sheep होती हैं. Horses, you know, and chariots. Chariots मतलब होता है जो रथ होते हैं, जैसे राजाओं के रथ नहीं होते थे पहले, आपने देखा होगा if you have seen Mahabharata, or if you have seen Krishna Leela, Ramayana, so there were chariots of the every fighter. So सारे राजाओं के अपने अपने रथ होते थे. So there are many prayers in Rigveda for the cattle, children, and horses. Like children, especially sons. especially for sons and horses. So there were a lot of prayers which are written in the Rigveda for these three. Horses were yoked to chariots that were used in battles, which were fought to capture cattle. लाइक जो पहले टाइम पे लड़ाई होती थी, लोग बैटल्स करते थे, वो लोग इसलिए करते थे ताकि वो एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट की कैपिटल जो कैटल्स होती थी उनको चुरा सकें इन द सेंस उनको अपनी कैटल बना सकें उनसे लेके. सो इसीलिए वो लोग वॉर फाइट करते थे. Like sometimes battles were fought for land, which was important for pasture and for growing hardy crops. So बहुत बार लोग लैंड के लिए फाइट करते थे. एंड लाइक जो सही लैंड होती थी, जो फर्टाइल लैंड होती थी, जहाँ पे क्रॉप्स अच्छे होते थे, लोग लैंड के लिए भी फाइट करते थे उस लैंड को अपने कवरेज में लेने के लिए. And some battles were fought for water and to capture people, and some like some of the wealth that was obtained was kept by the leaders, and some was given to the priest, and rest was distributed amongst the people. So number one is the leaders, and second number priest, and the third citizens of that place. So wealth were used for to perform yajnas. Yajnas are the offerings to God, like you say sacrifices which were made into the fire. Sometimes like people गिव बलि, लाइक बलि होती है ना, हम लोग किसी एनिमल की बलि देते हैं ताकि वो भगवान जी खुश होए. तो ऐसे भी होता था पहले टाइम पे. सो यजनाज इज वन ऑफ यजना मीन्स दैट ओनली. So these were meant for gods and goddesses. Offering could include ghee, grain, and in some cases animals also, I have told you. So most of the men took part in these wars, and there are no regular army included. So whatever the people or जितने भी people उनको मिलते थे, they used to collect them and they went to fight. And they also chose leaders who were often brave and skillful warriors. So they also choose the leaders, like जो भी मतलब they choose the leaders among the common army, among the common army, but the someone who is very brave and skillful, they choose them as their leader. So that's all for this video. Rest of the chapter we'll study in the next video. Thank you.